The Magna Carta for public school teachers was passed into law in view of providing professional rights and safeguards to our public school teachers in consideration of the exigency and level of difficulty of the exercise of their profession. Article 1. Declaration of Policy Coverage. To promote and improve the social and economic status of public school teachers, their living and working conditions, their employment, and career prospects. This act shall be known as the Magna Carta for public school teachers. As used in this act, the term teacher shall mean all persons engaged in classroom teaching in any level of instruction on full-time basis, including guidance counselors, school librarians, industrial arts or vocational instructors, and all other persons performing supervisory and/or administrative functions in all schools, colleges, and universities operated by the government or its political subdivisions. The following shall constitute the minimum educational qualifications for teacher applicants. A. For teachers in the kindergarten and elementary grades, bachelor's degree in elementary education. B. For teachers of the secondary schools, bachelor's degree in education or its equivalent with a major and a minor, or a bachelor's degree in arts or science with at least 18 professional units in education. Consent for transportation expenses. No teacher shall be transferred without his consent from one station to another. Transfer may be effected by the school superintendent, who shall previously notify the teacher concerned of the transfer and the reason or reasons therefor. No transfers whatever shall be made 3 months before any local or national election. Code for Professional Conduct for Teachers. At least 3 copies of the same code shall be deposited with the office of the school principal or head teacher, where they may be accessible for use by the teachers. Safeguards and Disciplinary Procedure. Every teacher shall enjoy equitable safeguards at each stage of any disciplinary procedure and shall have A. The right to be informed in writing of the charges. B. The right to full access to the evidence in the case. C. The right to defend himself and to be defended by a representative of his choice and/or by his organization. Administrative charges. Administrative charges against a teacher shall be heard initially by a committee composed of the corresponding school superintendent of the division or a duly authorized representative who should at least have the rank of a division supervisor where the teacher belongs. The committee shall submit its findings and recommendations to the Director of Public Schools within 30 days from the termination of the hearings. No discrimination. There shall be no discrimination whatsoever in entrance to the teaching profession or during its exercise or in the termination of services based on other than professional consideration. Academic freedom. Teachers shall enjoy academic freedom in the discharge of their professional duties, particularly with regard to teaching and classroom methods.
Under Article 3 is the hours of work and remuneration. Section 13 is the teaching hours. Any teacher engaged in actual classroom instruction shall not be required to render more than 6 hours of actual classroom teaching a day. Any teacher may be required to render more than 6 hours but not exceeding 8 hours. Section 14 is the additional compensation. Co-curricular and out-of-school activities and any other activities outside of what is defined as normal duties of any teacher shall be paid an additional compensation of at least 25% of his regular remuneration. Section 15. Criteria for salaries. Teacher salaries shall correspond to the following criteria. They shall compare favorably with those paid in other occupations requiring equivalent or similar qualification training in abilities. They shall be such as to ensure teacher a reasonable standard of life for themselves and their families. And they shall be properly graded so as to recognize the fact that certain positions required higher qualification and greater responsibility than others. Section 18. The cost of living allowance. The Secretary of Education shall, in consultation with the proper government entities, recommend to Congress at least annually the appropriation of the necessary fund for the cost of living allowance of teachers employed by the national government. Section 19. Special Hardship Allowance. In areas in which teachers are exposed to hardship such as difficulty in commuting to the place of work or other hazard shall be compensated special hardship allowance equivalent to at least 25% of their monthly salary.
The health measures and injury benefits, medical examination and treatment. Compulsory medical examination shall be provided free of charge for all teachers and shall be repeated once a year during the teacher's professional life. Medical treatment and/or hospitalization shall be provided free. Teachers may obtain the necessary medical care subject for reimbursement. Compensation for injuries. The teachers shall be protected against the consequences of employment injuries in accordance with existing laws. Leave and retirement benefits. Study leave. Teachers shall be entitled to study leave not exceeding 1 school year after 7 years of service. During the period of such leave, the teachers shall be entitled to at least 60% of their monthly salary. In all cases, the study leave period shall be counted for seniority and pension purposes. The compensation allowed for 1 year's study leave shall be subject to the condition that the teacher takes the regular study load and passes at least 75% of his courses.
Teachers' organization, freedom to organize. Public school teachers shall have the right to freely and without previous authorization, both to establish and to join organizations of their choosing, whether local or national, to further and defend their interests. Discrimination against teachers prohibited. Make the employment of a teacher subject to the condition that he shall not join an organization or shall relinquish membership in an organization. To cause the dismissal of or otherwise prejudice a teacher by reason of his membership in an organization.
Article 7. Administration and Enforcement. Rules and Regulations. The Secretary of Education shall formulate and prepare the necessary rules and regulations to implement the provisions of this Act. Shall take effect 30 days after publications in a newspaper of general circulation. Budgetary estimates. The Secretary of Education shall submit to Congress annually the necessary budgetary estimates to implement the provisions of this Act concerning the benefits herein granted to public school teachers under the employment of national government.
Penal provision of Article 7, Administration and Enforcement states that a person who shall willfully interfere with, restrain, or coerce any teacher in the exercise of his rights guaranteed by this Act, or who shall in any other manner commit any act to defeat any of the provisions of this Act shall, upon conviction, be punished by a fine of not less than 100 pesos nor more than 1,000 pesos, or by imprisonment in the discretion of the court. This Act shall take effect upon its approval on June 18, 1966.